Welcome the Explainer. Today, we're going to break down the complex system of total control that shapes every part of daily life in North Korea. And to really get a handle on how it works, we need to start from the inside. This is a quote from Shin Dong-hyuk. He's one of the very few people known to have been born inside a North Korean political prison camp and then escaped. His experience gives us a really stark window into the heart of the regime's power.
So let's begin with Shin's story, because his life reveals the fundamental logic that underpins the entire system of control.
Shin's life began with a punishment for something he didn't do. In fact, for something his uncle did before he was even born. His childhood was all about starvation and the camp's brutal rules. In a desperate attempt to get more food, he actually informed on his own mother and brother and was then forced to watch them be executed. It was this harsh reality that ultimately pushed him to escape.
And his story really raises a crucial question. What kind of system punishes generations of a family for a crime committed by a single person, a person who had already left the country? Well, the answer is a principle called guilt by association. And this isn't just some abstract policy. It's a powerful tool of control. By holding whole families responsible, the state makes the price of defiance incredibly high. It creates this powerful incentive, not just to obey, but for family members to actually police each other.
This idea of guilt by association is a key piece of a much larger, very deliberately designed architecture of control that structures the whole of North Korean society.
At the very heart of this architecture is the Sungbun system. You can think of it as a kind of hereditary caste system, but it's not based on wealth or ability. It's based on your family's history of political loyalty. You're assigned a Sungbun at birth, and it's pretty much impossible to ever change it.
Every single citizen is sorted into one of three main classes. You have the core class. These are the elites, the loyalists who get to live in the capital and hold good jobs. Then there's the wavering class, basically the ordinary citizens who are always being watched. And finally, the hostile class. If your ancestors were landowners or political criminals, you're considered an enemy of the state from birth.
And your Songbin determines, well, everything. Where you live, what job you can have, how much food you get, your education, even who you're allowed to marry. It creates this incredibly rigid society where the only thing that really matters is your perceived loyalty to the regime.
And who enforces this whole system? The secret police. They foster this constant atmosphere of fear, encouraging people to become informants on their friends and neighbors. Trust is broken down at every level, even inside the family, which makes any kind of organized resistance almost impossible.
So that's the big picture. But this system of control extends way down into the tiniest details of everyday life. It's not just political, it gets deeply personal.
Any kind of personal expression is seen as a political threat. The government actually mandates specific hairstyles. Things like blue jeans are banned because they're seen as a sign of corrupt Western influence. And yes, there's even a fashion police to enforce these rules, turning a simple personal choice into a potential crime.
Your movement is also incredibly restricted. Just to travel to another town, you need official permission. And trying to leave the country, that's considered treason. It triggers that same guilt by association rule for your entire family. This keeps people isolated, both from the outside world and from each other.
Even modern technology gets turned into a tool for surveillance. Smartphones in North Korea come with a state-controlled operating system already installed. This software randomly takes screenshots of whatever you're doing and sends them straight to government agents. Your personal device becomes a constant monitoring tool.
Now, to maintain this extreme level of control over what people do, the state has to control what people think. And for that, you need a powerful and relentless propaganda machine.
There's this massive gap between the official propaganda and the lived reality. The state narrative paints North Korea as a paradise, but this clashes pretty violently with history, like the devastating famine in the 1990s, where potentially millions of people starved while the regime focused on its own power.
You see, it's a completely closed information system. All media is controlled by the state. The outside world is always shown as dangerous and chaotic, while the Kim family is portrayed as being almost godlike. Citizens are even required to hang official portraits of the leaders in their homes and are taught to worship them from the moment they're born.
For decades, this whole system of control seemed absolutely unbreakable. But in recent years, some small but really significant cracks have started to appear.
The first major crack, ironically, came from the state's own failure
During that famine in the 90s, the government's food system just collapsed. So, to survive, people started their own informal markets, the Zhangmadang. They were illegal at first, but now they're a vital part of the economy.
And these markets became about a lot more than just food. People trade for everything the state doesn't provide. That includes bribes to get around the rules, and, most importantly, smuggled USB sticks loaded with illegal foreign movies and TV shows.
And this has become incredibly widespread. Data from people who have recently escaped shows that over 80% of them had access to these USBs, and pretty much all of those had foreign media on them. This means information from the outside world is getting in, bypassing the state's propaganda machine on a huge scale.
This has a really profound social effect. Sharing a dangerous, illegal activity like watching a South Korean drama with your neighbor requires trust. It builds bonds between people, which directly works against the government's efforts to make everyone suspicious of each other.
At the same time, because of these markets, bribery has just become a normal part of life. People have learned that the rules aren't always absolute. If you can pay, you can often get out of trouble. And that really starts to erode the fear that the whole system is built upon.
And that brings us to the central conflict happening in North Korea today. The regime's power is built on a wall of total information control. But through these black markets and smuggled USB drives, that wall is being breached, one South Korean drama at a time. The final outcome of this battle for information? Well, that's a story that's still being written.